So, we finally decided to start doing viewers' choice segments again. I think Marcus was ready to do it, and I just haven't had the chance to come up with some topics. But we are back with the viewers' choice topics again. This week, you guys have decided to have us speak about Cam Newton and his recent misogynistic comments. Cam Newton was on $1 Million Worth of Game podcast with Gillie the Kid and Wallo. And he starts off basically discussing his upbringing. It seems that he was in the household with what he calls three parents, his mom, his dad, and his grandmother. And so then because of that, he starts speaking about what he believes a woman should be like. And then he kind of compares this bad bitch aesthetic or this archetype of woman and compares it to what he feels like a real woman should be.
Bad bitch is a person who's just, girl, I'm a bad bitch. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I look the part, but I don't act the part.
Okay.
And it's a lot of women who are bad bitches. And I say bitches in a way, not to degrade a woman, but just to go off the aesthetic of what they deem is a boss chick. Mm-hmm. Now, a woman for me is handling your own, but knowing how to cater to a man's needs, right? And I think a lot of times when you get that aesthetic of like, I'm a boss bitch, like I'm a this, I'm a that, no, baby, like, but you can't cook.
Okay.
You don't know when to be quiet. You don't know how to allow a man to lead.
This obviously causes a lot of backlash because he mentions things like, a real woman cooks, a real woman knows when to stay quiet, and a real woman knows when to allow a man to lead. And then that obviously led to a lot of backlash from mostly women, obviously, in this case. And the rhetoric almost somewhat mirrors what some of these high value podcast kind of says about women. But in this specific instance, me personally, I don't know that I disagree with his comments. More so that I feel like he probably kind of worded them not in the best way.
Yeah, I didn't get Manosphere take from this. It's funny because I felt like as I'm listening to him say it, I feel like he's trying to put it lightly, and it just didn't work at all.
I would agree. He literally, as he's trying to explain, which very clearly we all understand what he's speaking of when he talks about this
bad bitch mentality.
But he even apologizes for saying like I don't mean to demean women by saying bad bitch, but
no, he's saying like that's the persona. He's not calling anyone a bitch. Literally, that to even accuse him of that is lowbrow. That's low brain activity. We're not gonna get to that.
I would agree with that.
So yeah, it was just ironic that like he's trying to massage the point and it's getting worse as he's massaging it. Yep. I think the point he's trying to make is that whether it be a bad bitch or a high value man, those are two opposite extremes. Those are two polar extremes. And reality for a healthy relationship is somewhere in the middle of that. Mm-hmm. Right? Like there's nothing wrong if you're a man in your relationship with wanting to provide financially or to be the head of your household. But that does not make it incumbent on your partner to suit all your needs without you also suiting their needs. Like financial stability is not the only need of your partner.
Yeah.
Right? Like imagine you having a friend or a roommate, or not a roommate, because we can have a roommate and we never speak. Imagine having a friend that only ever gave you money. What kind of friendship would that be?
Transactional.
So then now you're pushing to have a transactional marriage by that logic, or about a transactional relationship. So just as ridiculous is it to have the mentality that I'm gonna just go through this life without a partner and I don't need no help and I'm independent and my independence drives me, and that may be all well and good. Like, I think an adult person should be independent and should be able to provide for themselves, whether they be male or female, that what does that do for you emotionally to set yourself up to be alone? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like no one's necessarily talking about your need for a partner. Well, no, let me say that. I'm not talking about your need for a partner from a fiscal standpoint. Your emotional well-being and your happiness matters as much as your pockets do. Yeah. You know, if you haven't gotten to that conclusion yet, then, you know, I kind of feel sorry, because it is an eventuality that not a lot of people get to, but it's just the balance thing. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, coming into it with the mentality that, like, yeah, you know, I need me a man to make this much money and drive this kind of car, and we got to be living here. Or, you know, I need a woman that's going to cook this, clean this, take care of this, take care of that before I even pay attention to it. It's like putting people going into relationships with unrealistic expectations is the reason why a lot of them fail. Yeah. And it's not realistic for you to think that you're going to provide one thing, whether that be a womb or a paycheck, and then have the other person provide all the other things, emotional and otherwise, that you need to be catered to. Mm-hmm. It's very one-sided. It's like, here's the long laundry list of things that I need you to do for me and to uphold me. Here's my history that you have to deal with. Here's all this other stuff, but I'm only going to do this for you. But this that I'm doing for you should be enough for you to do all of that. And that's going both ways.
Yeah, it's interesting, because very clearly if you look into the context of what he's talking about what he himself values in a woman, not necessarily what all women have to and
that's another thing too. So you're upset because Cam Newton wants a certain man? Like, you hear women talk about how they want gangsters, how they want, you know, they want doctors, you know. We're going to have a video come out in a few days about how, you know, a certain group of women should start dating white men to be more successful. Like all of that gets off. But then, you know, we're getting upset because this man is talking about what he looks for in a woman. Yeah. Now, if you don't fit that, then don't date Cam Newton.
You know?
Don't date Cam Newton.
It's not lost on me on the fact that and I guess, you know, when these high value manosphere people talk about it, it is problematic. But when the actual high value man, who didn't even call himself that, but I'm just saying,
quite literally, yeah, man.
When he tells you what it is that he's looking for, misogynistic, problematic, but he's just telling you what it is that he values in a woman based off of what he grew up with.
And you know what? For me, the logical conclusion of that would be okay, well, I say I want to know what that type of man wants in a woman. I hear it. I don't like it. I don't like what he's saying. I don't like his point of view. I don't like where it's coming from. The natural conclusion for me is I'm looking for the wrong person, because I thought I wanted him, but the things he wants from me are not things that I can provide or even want to provide. Mm-hmm. So then maybe I should stop pointing to him in terms of what it takes for a successful relationship. Maybe it ain't just the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe money isn't the only thing that should drive you into a partnership or a relationship with somebody.
I also thought it was funny in speaking about the things that, you know, or speaking in the way of what he values in a woman. He then goes on to talk about how men should act, right? Like, he goes into this thing about, he didn't label it this, but to kind of give you context of what he was talking about, like these guys who talk about like, oh yeah, big bro, like da 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 da, and guys who are kind of, you know, waiting on clout or money from other guys who don't, you know, handle their own business like a man should. Mm-hmm. So like, he doesn't just attack women. He also then goes on to tell men how they should be, right? So I don't think it was largely misogynistic. I thought maybe he worded maybe a couple things wrong. Yeah. But even in that, like, he's just telling you what he himself values.
Everything about how our content works, from movies to television to YouTube channels, podcasts, blogs, what have you. Everything about how that content works tells us that we want deep introspective into celebrities or to the people that we follow. Like, we want opinions. We want to know what you actually think behind the veneer that you're trying to give off to the general public. Mm-hmm. The minute that they give that, it is time to tear them down.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that everybody has the best opinions. I'm not saying that I want to hear everybody's opinion. Mm-hmm. But it's the paradox of constantly digging for personal information on people, but then when it's given willingly, the tearing down of that same individual.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing, man.
I'll tell you the worst part about all of this is I'm watching Skip and Shannon's takes and other people's takes on it, specifically like ESPN, Fox Sports, things like that. And the question arises that, will these latest comments affect Cam Newton and him getting hired?
Jesus Christ, man.
So the man makes, even if they were actually misogynistic comments, there are plenty of quarterbacks who didn't face any sort of, or there are plenty of players who didn't face any sort of backlash from the NFL and how it affects their hiring, but have done a million times worse things. And we've mentioned this plenty of times in multiple videos, so I won't go into detail, but like, how in the world is this preventing him from getting hired? Despite being still probably one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
It shouldn't even be a question. Shouldn't even be talking about it.
I thought that was absolutely nuts. Yeah. And that was to me, that was probably the worst thing about all of this.
Like, what does it have to do with football? What does it have to do with his job? Did he break a law by speaking?
No.
Oh, let me guess. Y'all care about black women's feelings so much that you wouldn't possibly want to have a quarterback like Cam Newton out on the field, right? They couldn't have that representing your organization.
No, but let's have Ben Roethlisberger.
We just take guys who kill people with DUIs and beat their wives and stuff like that. Beat their teammates.
Or people who are extremely racist. And
threaten their teammates' wives.
You know?
And family members.
That's not a problem, but, let a guy tell you what he values in a woman. He can't be hired.
No, that's silly. That's silly.
So just another little notch in NFL media and how they handle the black players. But again, we talked about this plenty of times before, so I'm not going to beat that dead horse. Any other thoughts?
That is it for me. Give us your thoughts and comments in the box below. Let us know what you thought of Cam Newton's statements on modern day women, aka not modern day women and bad bitch. Let's not put them all together in one lump there. Give us your thoughts though. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
And make sure you check out our playlist on Sports Clips. We like to talk about things that are going on, obviously, in the NFL and other leagues, specifically with the NFL and their injustices, like I've already mentioned. But make sure you also subscribe. Like I said, whenever any kind of sports story comes up that's interesting and prompts a discussion, we like to talk about it. So make sure you hit subscribe.